started out at Payless Shoes. Well, first I started out at McDonald's for like 2 days because that was familiar to me. I worked it when I was a kid or as a teenager, and that lasted 2 days. And I'm like, no, first of all, I don't make enough money. And second of all, no. And so then I went to Payless Shoes. They made me a manager almost immediately. 3 months in, I'm a manager of a store. Um, so I did Payless Shoes for a little while because I was making fairly decent money. I was the boss. That made me feel good. And it worked for me. But then I went down into deep San Jose and was a manager of a store that had a lot of crime around it and pilferage and issues. And we ended up getting robbed. And my reaction to that ended up not being good. Like, I'm like, okay, we're not getting robbed again because I'm fortifying this store and we're going to have weapons and the whole bit. And my supervisor's like, no. And I'm like, well, this is how it's going to, me being almost cop-like, no, this is not going to happen again. We're going to catch this guy. And,
Yeah.
and so I started realizing definitely at that point where I wanted to go in my career, which was definitely law enforcement. And the cops were great that came to that. And I was watching them and I was, almost like a child emulating you. I was following them around going this, and I was realizing I could totally do this and probably should.
Yeah.
And then from that point, that was my path. And I ended up, of course, succeeding.
Right.
But, well, I guess you'd have to measure that success. But so that's how that whole thing happened. Moved down to California, where crime is, and started interacting with police, either personally or watching it in my neighborhood and just going, yeah, this is what I need to do. This is exactly what I need to do.
Mm.
And it almost who I am. Like, it felt really who I was. And as I got into law enforcement, even as a dispatcher, I started realizing how to deal with people and everything I almost grew up knowing how to do that because I had to deal with them every single, like, dirt bags in my family every single day, difficult people in my family every single day. And I ended up being pretty good at it. I ended up being really good at spotting a criminal. And I always used to joke and say, if they look like they could be related to me, so that's how I do it. How do you do that? And I'm like, well, that guy looks like he could be related to me. We need to talk, and I ended up, it just seemed pretty natural to me.
Mm-hmm. But your first foray into law enforcement is become a dispatcher at Palo Alto.
Yeah. No, San Jose.
San Jose.
Yeah.
How do you get that job? And what leads you to be a dispatcher as opposed to, hey, I just want to apply to be a cop?
So I didn't have enough college credits for the police departments that I was applying to.
Okay.
San Jose needed 40 credits. Santa Clara, you needed, also college. And the departments around where I was living required some college credits. So I thought, what I'll do? I'll do some sort of law enforcement job. And dispatching came up. So when you, research it, you see the job openings. And it was interesting because it was the 90s. And in the 90s, those job openings had anywhere from 600 to 1,200 people applying to them. When I applied to be a San Jose dispatcher, there were like 600 to 800 applicants. They used the convention center for the testing because there were so many applicants. And they only had 13 positions when I was hired. And so out of 600 to 800 people, I can't remember how many, probably somewhere in between that, I was chosen, one of 13 people chosen. Uneducated, not even from California, but I could type really fast because, let's face it, you're born in the 80s, you're learning typewriting skills in school. And so I was a fast typer. And also I learned very quickly. I absorb, I memorize really easily. And so 10 codes and laws and stuff, I read them, I know them. And that helped me.
Yeah.
And then I started, when I was a dispatcher, I got that all on my own. Went through all the testing. I was worried. I was like, when I was taking the background, I was like, they're going to find out where I came from, like who my family is. How do I explain that? But I didn't lie. I think that's what helped me.
Hmm.
I didn't lie. And when they asked me, well, how do you feel about that? I said, well, I'm not bitter. I feel like it made me decide I wanted to go that way. Wow.
Yeah.
And, so that's my course. And they hired me, which I was to this day, like San Jose is end all be all, the world's best police department, the world's best dispatch center. I mean, no matter where I went after that, even though I was a cop in Palo Alto, San Jose is still number one. San Jose is the best. They have the best cops, because they gave me my start.
Yeah.
And I didn't get hired on as an officer there. I didn't apply there, actually. I went
Why not? Why not?
because my captain at the time, Pat Dwyer, had just gotten chief of police in Palo Alto.
Oh.
And I was 13 credits short to even apply in San Jose. But Palo Alto didn't require any college.
Hmm.
And I thought, that's weird. Stanford's there. But they didn't require any college. They just, they had kind of a rigorous hiring procedure, but college credit wasn't one of those requirements. So I applied for Palo Alto and got it.
How old are you?
I was 28.